Right, hi, and welcome to today's video. I wanted to talk to you a bit about some more advanced open stage control layout techniques which I've been using recently. So you may remember from previous video, I had just really started to show the basics view of being able to send a MIDI command, MIDI note, sorry, and an OSC command. So in order to take this sort of a bit further, I sort of hinted at the last video that I had done some work. So I've got Open Stage Control installed. And if you remember, it's really simple to get working. Again, you just sort of download it and run it. I got a shortcut on my desktop which runs it. Literally all it does is just run the exe. You open the file location, literally just unpacks here. You've got this command. The only thing you need to do to get it to work is put a port in and put the MIDI port stuff in. So I did cover that before, but just very briefly, this MIDI stuff you need here. I use a thing called Loop MIDI, where I have a virtual hardware. Basically it's like a virtual MIDI port. I've called it OSC, and it's just something that basically I can send and receive MIDI commands with, and then other applications like your DAW, like Ableton, can also listen to that as well. So if OpenStage Control sends to this, then Ableton can receive on this. So and then it's followed by a couple of IDs. In order to get those IDs, you just go here and go Control M, just listen to, and then I've got you look at OSC, this bit before the colon is the one you want, which is the 2 for input, and then you want a 3 for output. So you literally just put OSC, which is this name here, and then 2, 3, which is input, output IDs. And that's it. I've also actually, thing of note here, I've got it to automatically load, which is my OSC live rig template. So basically, whenever you start it up, you click start, click the play button, it's automatically going to load that template for you. And the template is literally just a JSON document which describes what's going on. So you'll see here I've got a number of things going on. I've got a page for my loopers. I've got 6 controls for loopers. Got drums, low, mid, high. Got bass, melodic, and pads. And these correspond to 6 instances of the looper control in Ableton. And then I've got 9 instances of an instant sampler. And yeah, that's it. And then I've just started to add some, just getting into dummy clips in Ableton and trying to work out how to use dummy clips with automation to basically set up the effects I've got in the audio channels, using things like Manipulator and Tornado to get the sound manipulation correct. So I've just started to do some stuff, and also be able to switch where I send the mic channel from to different to recording bus, or get the samplers to send to the recording bus and stuff, so they can be picked up. So that's that really. So what I wanted to show, I guess, from a more sort of advanced point of view, is that if I go into edit mode, what you'll see is obviously there's multiple copies of the same thing. Instead of copying and pasting each control and just manually editing things, it makes sense to define things once and then to create a clone. So OpenStage Control is pretty cool in that you have the ability to create cloned controls. So you'll notice I've got 3 tabs: loopers, samplers, and effects. And you'll see it automatically highlights them here. So if you go into tab loopers, I've got a panel. So right behind the tab, you'll notice the very back control is actually a panel. And that just helps sort of group things together and allows you to put common variables that you might want to share with all of the controls inside the inside this tab. I guess you probably could put them in the tab. I didn't actually check. Okay, yeah, so tab does actually have the ability to have variables or inherit variables, but with the panel you've also got the same thing. So yeah, I mean, it was just from a neatness point of view, and potentially, I guess, in future, if I wanted to have multiple screens instead of tabs. If I had lots of tablets or more than one tablet, then potentially I could just cut this bit of code in quotes to JSON out of the live rig and import it into a new one, and it would all be sort of self-contained. So anyway, I'm waffling. To be honest, yeah, it's just easier for grouping to put everything inside a panel. And then inside here, I've got panel looper 01. So I've given it this ID, panel looper 01, and that will become important as well. And essentially, everything inside here is all editable. And this is like normal. You can create controls. This is something I'm experimenting with at the moment. It's not in use. Actually, what you'll notice, I'll just show you if I move this. What you'll notice is these are all linked. Do Control Z, just undo. So essentially, what you want to do, and again, I've got another panel. Sorry, yeah. So I've got another panel which is my represents my drums low. So what I've done is created a panel, and I've got a bunch of variables here, and I've given them names. So I've got the device, and what that does, it gets parent.variables.device, and actually that's so if I go to the parent of this is this panel. The variables device is called Ableton. Not strictly necessary at the moment, but I use it. I'm kind of trying to future-proof myself against other things. Come back to the panel looper. So we've got a looper. So I've got a 1-based index and a 0-based index. I've also got a color again, which I'm not using at the moment, and I've got a name. Yeah, so the name is, I guess, is important as well, because I pull that out for the title, and obviously these have all got different titles, but you'll notice in here they don't actually have any controls in them. They're literally just a clone of this whole thing here. So I'll explain how that works in a second. So the reason why I'm doing this is for this instance, I want to set up some variables, and then for the OSC stuff, I'm not doing any OSD stuff in here at the moment, but I do have. I'm trying to think of all the other stuff in here. Oh yes, in style, you'll notice I put some HTML, which is basically just a p tag with black background, and what I've done is I've given it at this .variables.name. So the text for the paragraph tag is the variable name, and if you remember, the variable name is drums low. So that's the reference. So it's at this, which is this control, and then dot, and then again, what have I done? I've put rounded borders on it, and I've set the background color to whatever that is, 222, which is sort of a light grey, I guess. Yeah, cool. So that's pretty much it from that point of view, and then you can do your usual stuff. So I mean, in looking at the hierarchy under the panel looper 1, I've got a beat switch, I've got a button, I've got a fader, beat switch, I've got volume control, overdub, and mute. And you'll notice these are all underscored with 0. So this will become important in a second. So let's take the reset switch, for example. So what this does is this sets loop length to 0. It sends an OSC command, which is set loop length with a value of 0. And the way it does that, so the important thing is to get the references set up. And the reason why in the panel I have these variable n called 0, because when you start cloning these, you don't want any of the controls to have the same name or same index or the same target, because essentially then OpenStage Control will think they're the same thing because they're controlling the same target. So what we want to do is make sure that each clone, that each control ID is named named differently, so they don't conflict with each other. So that's what I've done. So if we go back to reset, so what I've got here is I have got OSC. I'm sending /looper/set loop length command. the value, the pre-args value I'm sending is 0, and then and here, so the target is I'm sending at variable OSC host colon, and then I'm doing, so this is right, so this is a little bit complicated, so let me actually let me pull this out, copy, let me pull up VS Code and show you. So what this looks like is, so the first bit at variable OSC host, if you look here, as part of this I've got at variable OSC host. So the OSC host is 192.168. So let's parse this out. So actually that's that, and then I've got a colon, and then the OSC port, at OSC port, so that at gets the value, and OSC port, the base port, is 7010. So I'll stick 7010 in there, and then what I do is I then do so hash basically is going to give me a number sum. So I've got 7010, I've got plus 10, and then plus whatever my parent variable n value was. So that's going to mean, so essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm going to make sure that each instance of the instance sampler is going to send to a different OSC port, and then in my door I've got the different instances of the samplers listening on that same different OSC port. So it's just an easy way of being able to send commands to different things by, through scripting without having to sort of manually configure a load of stuff. So when I did the sums on here, so I've got basically parent.variables at n. So the parent of this reset switch is the panel. The value of n is 0, so that's plus 0. So 7010 plus 10 plus 0 is 7020. So essentially what that does, what that means is that the target for this command is port 7020, and that's pretty much all there is to it from that point of view. The other thing of note is you'll notice here that I've got this button. This button ID is button underscore parent.variables.n. So which is so again n is 0, so that's button underscore 0. Let's look at the volume. So I've got vol underscore 0. What you'll notice again is I've got vol underscore 0. Yeah, so that's it. If I look at let's say the beat divisor, again I've got some values here. So essentially what I do is this is a so this is a type switch. This is a switch which I've sort of put into a block. The different values it can send us: 16 bars, 8 bars, 4, 2, 1, half, and a quarter, which translates to 64 beats down to 1 beat. And again, it's just sending that value. So that's all cool. So basically, yeah. So essentially, the bit I wanted to get across is the fact that for every control in here, the button IDs and the other control IDs are set programmatically based on a variable that sits within the panel container. And then if I want to create a clone of that, it's fairly simple. So if I just click outside of here, you can go add widget, and you go containers and choose clone. What it'll do is it'll ask you the widget ID of what you want to clone. And so in our case, it will be panel underscore looper underscore 01, and then some props that you want to pass in. So this is where the clever bit comes in. So what I'll do is I'll just undo that. I'll go into here. So what I do is I created a clone 2, which is this drums mid, And then the props I pass in is a variables. If I just copy this, and again I'll put it in VS Code for you. So I've got variables, and then within variables I've got the name of the device, I've got looper, I've got n, I've got a color, I've got a name. Oops. Yeah, cool. So yeah, so what I'm doing is basically for the clone, essentially I don't have to create anything. All I do is create the clone, pass in the ID of this panel, and then pass in some parameters. So literally I'm just passing in the important ones are this, n is 1, and the name is drums mid. So what this means, I can't click on any. Oh, I can obviously control things, but I can't move these around. I can obviously interact with the controls, but as far as editing these, I can't, because they're a clone. So what that means is that, you know, if I, as I showed you earlier, if I move something in here, it moves something in all of the clones. And I'll come back to that as well, because remember I had that trick around setting the sizes of things as percentages rather than, yeah, please don't ever manually input any you know, offsets as discrete numbers or absolute numbers, because you'll just end up in a complete nightmare. Yeah, so so once I had the first one done, so then I can easily create any more. So if I wanted to create a new widget, I wanted to add widget. Let's say I wanted to add a I don't know, an encoder, something like this. Yeah, as I say, it just appears in all of them, which is quite cool. Yeah, and that just means you create something once, you clone it, every clone is going to look exactly the same. And as long as you get your IDs right, then you should be fine. Yeah, cool. So that's it for that, really. So the important thing to take away is that just have good design. Separate things in panels, I think, is useful. So you've got a sort of parent container for here. In the variables for each panel, I've got a list of things that I think might be useful to pass to each clone. Set up this one just as you like it, and then when I want to create a new one, just right click, you know, right click and a bit of free space, add widget, container, clone, enter the details of the thing you want to clone, and then just prep it with the variables that you want to do. So that's pretty much all there is to say on that. Oh yeah, I was going to say about the percentages things. So in here, in terms of geometry, in order to capture this, it's like when you created a new widget. So I've got a switch here. Right. Instead of just make sure that when you create something new, you put in percent. This is a little trick here: percent, 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 and then just move it once, and just resize it once. And then what these will do is turn the percentage values, and then that means that you know, whenever you resize your window, what's going to happen is that they're all automatically going to resize for you. Let me just get rid of that. Resize, get rid of that. Yeah, you'll notice that everything pretty much sort of stays aligned, and you don't no longer have to worry about that annoying sort of different offsets on different things. So they should scale equally well to a sort of 10-inch, you know, Android tablet as it would do to a sort of 15-inch external, 20-inch external, you know, touchscreen monitor that you might have on your desktop. So yeah, that's all cool. Instance samplers are exactly the same. The keyboard one here is the one that's actually the source of everything. We look at record again. You can see I've done the same trick here. This parent, so this panel here has the same sort of variables in it, the name and the n value, which is important. And then let's say this note. So this sends a note / note command, and again I'm sending at variable MIDI port. So the MIDI port stays the same, but the note it sends is note 23 plus the n value. So this will be 23, this will be 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31. So from basically from 23 to 31 different MIDI notes that when I click the note button, that's the thing. And then in my sampler, you remember I've got the ability to map an instant sample to a particular MIDI note. So the way I did it like this is basically to allow me to then be able to trigger an instant sample instantly by pressing a particular key on either OSC, so either on my control surface, on a launch pad, or on a keyboard. It doesn't matter. It just gives you that sort of mapping ability, and yeah, it just makes things a little bit more flexible. Cool. So there we're at. So that's basically sort of the main technique around using clones in OpenStage Control. I think they're really powerful, and they give you sort of really a quick way to get quite complicated and consistent layouts done. All right, that's all I've got to say on this for now. Sorry I've gone for a little bit long. I guess hopefully you'll pause it at the relevant bits where you can see what I did and how I did it. And again, using variables I think is really important, not only sort of top level ones around, you know, your OSC host and port, you know, the CC MIDI ports, but also from your actual container components. Make sure they've got variables and you reference them, and then you should be golden. Right, if you've got any questions, please do leave a comment below. If you like this content, please do click the like button. It all helps. And if you'd like to see more of this content and you'd like to stay up to date and get notified when I release a new video, then please do click subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when new content goes up. And as always, I'll see you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.